Welcome to 24 Carats. I'm Kelly Johnson, and I am delighted to start a new series with leaders from Hey Chica. Joining me today are Melissa and Veronica, and we are going to have a great conversation about the power that is within the Latina community, and we're going to take a really holistic approach to this conversation. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. This is exciting. Every time we can talk about Hey Chica, it just brings so much joy to us to share this story. So thank you for the invitation.
Oh, I appreciate you all for making the time to talk with us. So let's dive right in. So share a little bit of your backstories, kind of what drew you to the point of launching Hey Chica, and why is this so important?
Yeah, that's where to start. I can probably talk about how Melissa and I came together, and then me going to her and telling her about my idea, and then you want to kind of chime in there. But I started working with Melissa through the Latino Leadership, what was it, LCLD, the Latino Center for Leadership. So we met there and immediately had a sisterhood and a friendship. And then during that time, I was working at VisitDallas, so for a very long time. But I realized that there was not opportunities for Latinas. In my career, I never saw Latinas in the corporate world, in the event space. They weren't getting poured into. And after I've had my kids, I realized I didn't want to go back to a job that didn't acknowledge that or didn't have an opportunity for me to grow. These are mid-level leadership. So I just had an idea, and I just thought it would be cool to bring us together. And I knew Melissa knew how to bring people together, and I met with her, and I had my little notebook, and I was like, I want to start this thing. This is what it is, and it was really in a sketchbook with ideas. And she was like, whatever you need, I'm here. And I think she was one of the first that I actually wanted to bring along. And that was a start and the seed that was planted from how the idea came up. And Melissa can add to that too, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was born out of the needs that we had in our own lives.
Yeah.
And everything that we address in the sessions, everything that we work through with the women that attend the conference and the tacos and chill, all of it come from the needs that we have, right? And so we wanted to build a sisterhood around those needs and how to cultivate each other and help each other step into our power.
I think I remember when you all launched. Like, I saw the post on LinkedIn and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, how can I sneak in? But I just loved it. And I think likely what drew me is the authenticity, right? Like, it resonated so quickly. And now just sort of hearing the impetus, like what caused you all to form it, now I know why, right? And I think it's the power of our stories, and when we use our experiences to not just meet our own needs, but meet the needs of others, that the solution just becomes so real. So talk about, what are those needs for the Latina community? Like, what were the things that you all were trying to solve for?
Yeah, it was really simple for me, and I'm loving that you said authenticity, because at the core, that's what I want women to feel when they're in the space and we're sharing energy. The most important thing for me is the authenticity, and we get tested by that every day. I had a conversation from last night where I had, some people that are invested in our programming that don't like the topics or whatever, and I told my friend, I'm like, they want Kanye, but they don't want Kanye, right? Like, people want... They love the hype. They love the aesthetics of what Hey Chica brought. It was refreshing and fresh, but everything had an intention to it. And authenticity was the number one priority for me. Like, I knew working in Dallas and the way that Dallas runs, it's very, old guard, new people, the next up. And there was a lot of respect that had to be paid for people who paved the way for us. And I love that. At the same time, I think that there's a gap on having those conversations on how we can take the pipeline and incorporate that at early on. So authenticity is having brave conversations, right? And for me, the way the look and feel, the content came from my own experience. I didn't want to be a fake person talking about a topic that I had no experience in, that I couldn't speak firsthand and share a story to. So that was how it really started. It was my own experience. And I promise there was a lot of scary times where I thought, nobody cares about that. No one's going to care that I'm in a corporate life and there's no leadership. But I knew more people than not would care. Like, I knew that there was several women who were fourth generation like I am, that were Latinos that were not acknowledged as Latinos, that were more acknowledged as white women, or that experienced racism in the boardroom. And I knew that because I had seen it. So I thought, if it's only 20 women that are going to come, then it is that, but the impact was still there. So everything was drawn on our experiences, like Melissa said. It was every breakout even, Melissa sat with me, and I laid out my life, and I thought, I was a teen mom. We're going to talk about that. I had a stroke when I was 30. We're going to talk about mental health and self-care. I want to talk about no mean girls. That's important to me because I was a mean girl and I experienced that, and I was experiencing a breakup with friendships. So that's how we led the conversation, and still to this day, right?
Yeah, no, I think what's interesting is as we work through life and as we level up and as we, experience new things, we try to bring those experiences into the experience that other women have because they're having them too, and with every lesson that we learn, if we can take it to another woman so that she can live just a little bit of a better life, then that's what we're here to do.
I'm just so appreciative of your bravery and your courage to do that. Your stories resonate with me. I mean, as someone who grew up with food insecurity, which back then, we didn't have that fancy label of food insecurity. Sure. We were po, right? And grew up, not having air conditioning, grew up with the water being turned off at times and us having to fill the bathtub. We won't have water for we don't know how many days. And so I think, people can look at your success and say, you had it easy. So I love that you lowered the veil. I love that you just were vulnerable to go there and share your stories, to empower and impact so many women and really families, right? Because when we touch a woman, we're touching her whole family.
Right.
And so I just thank you for that. I'm getting emotional just thinking about, no, seriously, how
it evokes something from you, right? And that same energy, not to interrupt your conversation, it's powerful because every day we look at ourselves and we live what we're saying. It's changed my life because I'm saying no mean girl. And then when I find myself catching up in a gossip circle, whatever, I have to check myself, right? But I do need to talk about that because there's an opportunity to liberate myself and to liberate another person. And a chica is not just a Latina. A chica is just a girl in Spanish. And I like to say that because we're all welcoming in. Several women that are non-Latinos have attended our events and have shared the same way you have, that, wow, I felt like there was authenticity and I felt like I could be myself and share my story. So the impact resonates even for someone who's not, a chica in Spanish or a Latina in that sense. So it's amazing to see you light up even because I feel like it is an energy, it is something different that we cannot sort of just cultivate out of just because it's authentic.
Absolutely. Well, you can't manufacture that. And I think you can tell when people are trying to manufacture something. And I think it's likely why I was personally drawn to it years ago when I first saw it, and just so proud of the impact that you all are making, and to, fast forward and have 24 Carats as just yet another platform to get this message out about what you're doing. I'm really grateful to serve in that way. So let's talk about the summit and let's talk about some of the programming just to give people, because I've just gone in and been I love what you're doing. But maybe just explain what is it? What are the different elements and components of Hey Chica? Because it's very broad.
Yeah, I'll talk about a little bit and then I'll let Melissa talk about our newest platformers. I need to go back because we had to reinvent ourselves after COVID. So we started as just a leadership summit, and I thought that was great. We're just going to have a leadership summit, and just God works, right? It's not the end. That's only the beginning of what we believed it to be, and there's still more that we're uncovering. But it started as a leadership summit because I knew that was the number one need, and then the self-care side because that was my personal experience on you can't lead without that. And then over COVID, it really became we are, it came to me just, we're a no mean girl movement, which means don't be mean to your community, that's community care. Don't be mean to yourself, that's self-care. And don't be mean to your future, and that's your leadership and your legacy. So we took that, and now we started the last 2 years, I guess, the presidential campaign, got into community care and standing up for what that means. And that was the birth of our Latina voter campaign. And right now we're no, we need to take it a step further. We need to have a women's rights platform and Melissa can talk about that because that's kind of my excitement. But she is our community political. Like, she is a wizard, and she's probably the most affluent that I know that can go in and understand politics in a way that's palatable for women like me who have never been introduced to it. But it's incredibly important to what we're doing in the movement. So you could talk about the...
Yeah. So the advocacy portion of it is really stepping into what is our power as it interacts with our community, right? Like, what do we have the power to change? What do we have the power to maintain? And how do we wield that power to better serve us, right? Because I think so many times, whether it be laws around our bodies and our reproductive health, whether it be laws around our education and access to opportunities, to equal pay, a lot of times we feel like we don't have any control over that, right? That we're just pawns in a society and we're just moving through the motions. But the reality is that it's all up to us, right? We get to decide who has the power, and in deciding who has the power, how they wield it. And so the Advocacy Summit is really, really focused on educating women on what their power is and how it affects them, how it affects their communities, and how it affects our society as a whole.
So you all have kind of referenced this, but I want to double click on it before we wrap up this conversation. And you've referenced the fact, you've referenced about like mean girls, right? Mm-hmm. So talk about like, why is that even a thing? Like, is there such thing as mean boys? Like, I've never heard it.
Yeah.
You know, like, why is that a thing within kind of the female community?
I don't know, but the more that I experience it, the more fire I build to demystify or to correct it, right? Because at the end of the day, I think it's accountability to yourself, and it doesn't feel good. I own a yoga studio. I'm really woo-woo, right? I'm into meditation and crystals and energy. And lately, Melissa and I, without even knowing, have been going back and looking at past trauma in our life. Like, why are we acting the way that we are? How do we heal from this? And we're doing our own discovery, just like anyone else coming through COVID. Everyone's trying to. So I think that mean girl came, it kind of went and gone. I was bullied as a kid. It's bullying. And boys do bully. Like, I've seen it. So it is the same sense, I think. But I experienced it. I was bullied throughout my entire life in elementary school. And then I saw it being mean girl at the boardroom. Like, if I was in a position, I was the only Latina, and another Latina came in, she felt she was the only one that could be there. So then that sabotaging happened. And for me, it was a long time with white women in me. And I felt like I developed an anger and a hate around white women that were not supportive. And then I had to go and do work on that so I can heal from that. I can invite white women into the culture and community in a safe and a very courageous way. And I don't know why it doesn't go away, but it's not a group of people. It's everyone finding that why are they doing that in themselves, but ready to stand up for that and then talk about it, because that's the only way we're going to heal, is if we bring light to the conversation, just like anything else. Injustice, poverty, like, we have to talk about it and make it real for anything to change. Right?
Yeah. I think what we put out and how we interact with people is just a reflection of what's going on inwardly, right? And so that trauma, we're going to recycle it if we're not addressing it. And I think what's so great about, our relationship is that we always approach things with truth, and we know that it's coming from a place of love. And so it doesn't matter how honest and how much that piece of truth might strike a nerve. We know that there's a nerve to be struck then,
Yeah,
so good.
It's just, I'm not thinking about it. Like, when we hang out, like, we have these really weird, vulnerable conversations, but I feel like it's so safe. And I feel like that at Hey Chica, a lot of people start to share their stories, like, unsolicited, or they stand up and like share, and I'm like, wow, that's like magic. I'd love to see that unfold in that way, because it's giving them a little more air in their heart, right? Because they're like a balloon, just releasing and creating space.
And that's so critical to healing. So we're going to pick back up on sort of this conversation about the impact of trauma and how it influences the way we show up in our communities, our families, and our careers. But we have to close for just now. This was already a great conversation. We could hang here forever. Thank you so much, ladies. I know you're coming right back. So thank you all for listening to 24 Carats, where we help you live out your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion 24/7, 365.